I call the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I beg to move the motion standing my name under the Fixed Term Parliaments Act. I think it is fair to say that nobody in this House relishes the idea of a general election because nobody wants to put the public to this inconvenience, particularly, as the gentleman says, this season. But across the country, there is a widespread view that this Parliament has run its course. And that is because I simply do not believe that this House is capable of delivering on the priorities of the people, whether that means Brexit or anything else. And of course, I would rather get Brexit done, Mr. Speaker. I would rather get Brexit done first. And I share the blazing urgency of many colleagues across the House. And indeed, last Tuesday, we briefly allowed hope to bloom in our hearts, Mr. Speaker, when for the first time in 3.5 years, Parliament voted for a deal to take this country out of the EU. And I repeat my admiration for the way MPs came together across the House to do that. And in many ways, it was an astonishing moment. They said we would never reopen the withdrawal agreement. They said that we would never be able to get rid of the backstop. They said we would never do a new deal with the EU. We did all of them, Mr. Speaker. They said we would never get Parliament to agree. And I give way to my right honourable friend.
I thank my right honourable friend and all he's doing to get Brexit done. Could I ask him, in his preparations for a no-deal Brexit, can he make sure there's plenty of corn feed for the election chickens on the opposite benches?
I could, Mr. Speaker, elegantly put, Mr. Speaker. Our thanks to the work of the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, our preparations for no-deal Brexit are very thorough indeed. But alas, we have not been able, as I say, to get Parliament to agree. There was a tantalising moment, as I say, when I thought that Parliament was going to do the sensible thing, Mr. Speaker. And then this House threw out the programme motion at the urgings of the opposition, at the final hurdle, as they intended all along. They made it inevitable that the people of this country would be retained in the EU against their will for at least another 3 months at a cost of another £1 billion a month. But I hear cries opposite to bring the bill back, Mr. Speaker, and I've offered that, and I continue to offer it. I wanted, and I still want so badly, to accommodate this House, that we on these benches have compromised. Yep. And last week I wrote to the right honourable gentleman offering him more time for debate. Days more in committee, days more in the Lords, the ability to sit round the clock if necessary, all the last weekend, with only one condition, that he would agree to do what all leaders of the opposition are meant to yearn and crave and campaign for, and that is have a general election on December the 12th. And I offered him that chance, and Mr. Speaker, I offer it again today.
He's not listening, though.
He turned us down on Thursday and Friday. I offered him again today.
He's had time to think about it.
To use all the hours God gives to scrutinise this bill, provided that scrutiny concludes in time for an election on December the 12th. And let us be clear, that is enough time, Mr. Speaker, to scrutinise this bill. It was a remarkable feature of the debate last week on the New Deal that not only were there no new ideas in that debate, but the opposition actually ran out of speakers in the debate. They want more time. They ran out of speakers. And the people of this country can see the reality. They aren't interested in scrutinising Brexit. They aren't interested in debating Brexit. They just want to delay Brexit and to cancel Brexit. And if this House is to convince the country, that it is really serious about getting Brexit done, there must be a fixed term to this debate, a parliamentary terminus, a hard stop Mr. Speaker, that everybody can believe in. I give way with pleasure to the Honourable Gentleman.
I thank the Prime Minister for giving way. To make this matter easy for those of us on this bench, could the Prime Minister confirm to the House that if he is successful and he achieves a general election, will he be putting and seeking a mandate on the basis of the withdrawal agreement that this House voted for last week, or will he be seeking to change that withdrawal agreement?
Mr. Speaker, I can tell the House that we have an excellent deal, a great deal for the whole of the UK, and we will be campaigning on the basis of that deal. And if the honourable gentleman wants more time to debate that deal and to scrutinise, as I take it by his question that he does, then, as I say, he can. But we must have December the 12th as a hard stop, a parliamentary terminus that everybody can believe in. And an election fulfills exactly that purpose, to allow a new parliament and a new government to be in place by Christmas. Because, Mr. Speaker, without that hard stop of an election, without that moment of truth, the electorate will, I'm afraid, have a sense that we're all like Charlie Brown, endlessly running up to kick the ball, only to have Parliament take it away, whisk that ball away yet again, only to find that Parliament is willing to go on delaying and delaying to January, to the end of January, to February and beyond. And the frustration will go on, Mr. Speaker. The anxiety will go on. And the angst and uncertainty that is felt by millions of people and businesses across the country will be unnecessarily and unfairly prolonged and exacerbated. That's the reality of what the opposition's course condemns this country to. And if I'm wrong, then the remedy is very simple, Mr. Speaker. The opposition, the right honourable gentleman, and all his cohorts on the front bench, they can vote for this motion tonight. They can vote for this motion tonight, bring it back, let's get Brexit done, and then let's make our cases, let's go our separate ways and make our cases to the country to reboot our politics in the way that our people want. But if the Leader of the Opposition does not wish to take that opportunity, we must, if he wants simply to delay Brexit, if he wants to frustrate yet again the democratic will of 17.4 million people and frustrate democracy in this country, then I'm afraid we must have an election. We must have an election now. We cannot continue with this endless delay. And I don't know about you, Mr. Speaker, but I think the Leader of the Opposition has now run out of excuses for running away from it. First, he said of the Ben Act, and I quote, he said, "Let this bill pass and gain royal assent, and then we will back an election." The bill passed and gained royal assent, but he still shrank from an encounter with the voters. Then he said we would wait until the act had been complied with. The letter was sent over a week ago, not my letter, of course, but Parliament's letter, and he's still coming up with ever more ludicrous excuses for hiding from the British people. Now he says we've got to take no deal off the table at the end of the transition period in December 2020. Let me repeat for that. He wants to take no deal off the table at the end of the transition period in December 2020. And of course, I think his so-called anxieties are absurd, because I'm confident that we'll negotiate a fantastic new trade. Well, if you'll vote for this motion, we'll bring it back, Mr. Speaker. I'm confident that we'll negotiate a fantastic new trade deal that will bring thousands of new jobs to businesses and communities across this country. But even if he disagrees, would it not make sense, according even to his own logic, for him to agree to an election now, so that he could have the opportunity to take no deal off the table himself? Isn't that the logic of his position? Mr. Speaker, he can run, but he cannot hide forever. Across Parliament, his supposed allies are deserting, and the SNP, I now read, are in favour of an election. The Lib Dems are in favour of an election. What an incredible state of affairs, Mr. Speaker, that there is one party tonight that is actually against a general election. There is one party that does not trust the people of this country, Mr. Speaker, and that is the principal party of opposition. Mr. Speaker, I hope he accepts tonight that he is snookered and that this charade has gone on for long enough, and that he will agree to allow Brexit to get done and then allow us to make our cases to the people. And when that election comes, the people of this country will have to make a choice between a government that delivers, a government that not only got a great Brexit deal when they said it was impossible, but which is also putting 20,000 more police on the streets, delivering the biggest hospital building programme in a generation, investing £14 billion more in our schools, in levelling up education funding across the country, a great one-nation Conservative government, which is what we represent, and a Labour opposition, Mr. Speaker, that would turn the year 2020 into a toxic, tedious torture of two more referendums, one on the EU and one on Scotland. That is the choice, Mr. Speaker. And it is frankly time for the Leader of the Opposition to move his rusty Trabant from the yellow box junction where it is currently blocking progress. And it's time for us to get Brexit done by December the 12th and then go to the people. Because it is now overwhelmingly clear that the only way to get Brexit done is to go to the people of this country. And I believe that it is time that we all, each and every one of us in this House, had the courage, finally, to face our ultimate bosses, the people of this country. And I commend this motion to the House.